No matter how much it tries to swim right off, it always gets caught by the eye. That simply encapsulates my guest for today. She is the Hungarian of Idomaland. She is the first civil engineer in Benue State.
Mechanical.
She is the first of a whole lot of things, but permit me to bring her on board and we get to find out all the details about her as we take our chat. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. You're also a chief. I can see you there. It's Hungarian Kidoma, the pride of the Idoma nation.
The pride of it, and you actually have made a pride.
Oh,
and before I get to talk about this pride you brought to the Idoma land, we'll take a break.
Thank you so much.
I don't think in gender boxes at all. I just get on with it.
A man that would dare to ask the wife, who do you think you are? That is a real man.
In fact, our husbands are our firstborns. The husband needs more attention than even the children.
It's not only about work, it's not only about family. They need to take the time to look after themselves, and we don't. We don't do that.
They took my money. I paid every fees. I never asked to be hoisted as a governor. I wanted to be allowed to go out there and contest for the position of governorship candidate first.
There's nothing greater than looking back and seeing that while you were aspiring, you were able to inspire others.
Empower to women. Yes. We need to have more women, more multitaskers around Nigeria to get Nigeria working.
Definitely. The program is The Woman, and I just introduced you before the break to the Hungarian of Idomaland.
Thank you.
Now, let me even begin from when you were a child.
Okay.
A little bit told me that you have always been the first of everything. Your academics was an excellent, an exceptional one too. Talk to me about it.
Whoa. It's a pleasure being with you today. I'm so highly delighted to be here. And I'm happy to speak to women and Nigeria generally. I'm the first daughter by name Ada. That's first daughter. And then I went in to read mechanical engineering. And as of the time I graduated, I became the first female mechanical engineer of the Benue State origin, both Tiv and Idoma. You talk about first, so we're talking of first. I also contested to be governor of Benue State in 2007.
That's the first.
First female gubernatorial aspirant. And then became the first female general manager of the Benue State Water Board.
A lot of firsts. I know
and
that.
Then, the grace of God, I became the first female mechanical managing director of any of the 12 river basins in Nigeria in the year 2011. You know, Nigerian river basins were formed in the year 1976. But after this formation, until 2011, no woman made it there. But I'm happy God used me to break that record.
All right,
so that's about the first for now.
I'm going to talk about all of that first, you know, one by one.
Okay.
But talking about mechanical engineering, that's what you studied in the university. I'd like to start with that. I mean, it's a job, even today, women don't want to go into.
Perfect.
Why did you choose that?
Whoa, that is who I am. When I was growing up as a child, I discovered a lot of things that the African community would say, this is for women, this is for men. And so even I saw my junior brother doing some things that naturally would have been called naughty or like stubborn, but then he was being waved. Everything he does was okay because he was a man. So that made me feel like, let me try. What is it that is wrong with a woman's brain? Is there a malfunctioning in the woman's brain, or is it just a perception? And that inquiry took me off the line. When I was in secondary school, my Indian mathematics teacher said, you're so intelligent, but because you're a woman, you just have to be a medical doctor or a pharmacy. And I said, why can't I be an engineer? He said, no, because you're a woman. And so I said, no. Then I want to be the engineer so that I can see if the woman's brain is a little bit less than the man, then I will fail the engineering and I will have it on record that the woman's brain is actually less than the man.
So now, as you talk about it, everybody wants to ask this question.
Yeah.
I better empty the question before they start attacking me.
Please, go ahead.
Did you find out the woman's brain, is it less?
Whoa. It's not less. I was in the same class with 17 young men. We took mechanical engineering course together, and we were only 2 female, and we came out in short. I can say the first 15 people, really? I was one of the first 15. So every other person that was even a male came behind us.
So in a way, your brain actually is better.
it's the women's brain. It's not actually less. It's just the whole humanity. We are one and equal in the brain. You know, the sex organ is different, just to complement ourselves, but the brain is one.
All right. Now, you told us earlier that you were the first gubernatorial aspirant, female aspirant in Benue State.
Yeah.
And not just that you attempted once, you did twice. I know you were there in 2015 as well.
2015. Then it was quite. I was really out to get it then.
Okay. And I'm sure you're not going to give up.
By the grace of God, Buhari never gave up. I'm not going to give up.
Now, a lot of times women try out, these things for the sake of launching themselves. I've had a woman here who said, I did it once, I don't want to do it again.
Oh.
You know, I'm wondering, why are you not giving up? Why are you persistent on getting it? What do you think you have different that the men do not have?
Well, I feel that administration, if you check the domestic environment, you see that the woman is a better manager. She knows how to appropriate what is available. So in this very Nigeria we have now, with very little resources, you need a proper appropriation manager. And that is the reason why the woman must be totally utilized in this present situation in Nigeria. I give you a practical example. When the salary comes, the men are in charge, the money is still much. But towards the end of the month, you come to 18, 20 to 30th day of the month, the women become in charge. Because the little 10,000, the little 15,000 that is given to the woman have been kept well. And you see the man coming back, say, Mama,
and that's when they get very nice.
Anything there, can I have something? And they become very nice, and you help them with it. And the women are so kind. No matter whatever you had experienced at the beginning of the month when they had the surplus, when they come back at the end of the month, you're there for them. So at this period in this country, when the resources, we talk of the oil boom, it's no longer there. We need the woman to properly manage and administer the resources accordingly. That is why I keep trying. If I'm given the opportunity, that I will be able to put
what
properly.
Would you say were reasons responsible for your not clinching it first, second time?
Well, several challenges. The challenges are from the religious background of the country. There's that societal belief that the woman is not supposed to be so exposed. So that runs a lot of negative impulse when you're saying you want to be a leader. And then the society as well, the traditional institution, the traditional council, mostly from the north to the south, from the east to the west. You talk of the emirs, you talk of the obis, you talk of the onis, you talk of Toti or Chidoma, whatever. The traditional council have carved itself over the years because then it needed masculine strength for wars. Because then humanity was struggling to survive within themselves. But then those days are gone. We're no longer at a daily war within the closest community. And so now you need a brain. And that's where the woman comes in. So this challenge of the traditional councils, the challenge of the religion, the economic challenges, women are not that exposed to the kind of big money they use for campaigns. And then the most, I tell you, Elizabeth, the most challenging is the violence. And so you see a lot of violence each time they're shooting a gun, and you're like, oh, you know, so the woman gets tested because she's having the challenge of the womanhood in her and the violence that we see in our day-to-day campaigns. So that's, apart from religion, tradition, we talk of economic, the next and the most challenging is the violence, you know. So we pray that the security system will continue to protect the woman so that we can clinch it at our next touch. I'm sure you, after NTA, you're going to do something like that because you see.
Oh my God. We don't know about that yet.
No problem. It's coming up.
Now, I'm wondering, a lot of times women climb the ladder, you know, and they seem to be the solo, you know, climbers at the time. We don't seem to carry each other along, unlike the men. Have you had this been mentioned in your corridors, and what are you doing about it?
Well, for me, I will differ a little for my person, because I've gotten all my training with a male counterpart. As a young girl, I was a science student, so I interacted strictly with the male counterparts of my own time in the secondary school. When I was in the university, as I earlier said, we had about 70 male students, with 2 of us as the female students. So over the years, then I went to commercial pilot school in Zaria, and I was the only female commercial pilot student then. So over the years, I've actually related with men. So I've actually gone into networking, because it's only about networking. The problem a lot of women have is because of the secretive nature of a woman, she wants to keep her problem to herself. You discover that when a woman is in the office, or she's having a political appointment and she's having a challenge, you know, she finds it very hard to let this person know, because even at home, the husband give you a slap, you're not ready to tell your friend that. Of course, you don't want to. You just want to tell her the good part. So that actually affects the woman in position, making them solo in terms of the networking that should actually hold them together. It's not there, because most of the time they want to keep the problem to themselves. They feel shy about it. They feel somebody's going to laugh at them. But the men are not like that. They're going to go to the beer parlor, and they're going to go to a sitting joint. They're going to go to the prayer house, and they're like, oh boy, what happened? What did you do? You know what? See what this person is giving me trouble. I said, don't worry. I know this man who knows him. He's going to call him for you, and the problem gets solved.
Politics is one game that I'm not sure I have appetite for. And but I know that a lot of young people, you know, long to be in it. But a lot of times they are misguided. What are you doing for mentorship for them?
Wow, thank you very much. I have a foundation called Adachenge Divine Foundation.
Oh, really?
It was launched in 2013. At that time, the Israeli ambassador as well as the Finland ambassador to Nigeria were all there. And our target, apart from women, we have the youth as part of our focus. We're looking at empowering the talented youths that have nobody to help them out. A lot of people, a lot of young men and women have invented a lot of things in school. Most of the school projects align back in the university, because there's no interface between the entrepreneur, between the industrialized countries, as well as our desire to industrialize our nation, to these projects that these talented youths have invented. So we're interfacing on that. I go from school to school to talk to the female students and tell them, if I could become a mechanical engineer as far back as 2 decades back, you can do better than I did, and you're not less than anybody. The young lady that is married to my own son is a girl who took me as a role model, because I actually go down there to reach out to these young people.
Don't tell me you were doing matchmaking.
No, I never even knew about it. She had a private desire to be like me, you know. So I tell you, I'm doing a lot in that aspect. So many of the young people, especially the young ladies, are not able to go into the core engineering because they're not seeing the industries that will employ them, that will give them the quick cash that is needed to put the food on the table. So you talk of the makeup artist, it just comes and make you up, and she's sure of going home with what can put food in her on her table. So the incentive of what comes after NYC, you know, I discover in Nigeria, our children go back home after NYC, you know, after the National Youth Service Corps. They don't actually get where to go, especially those who read engineering. When you read engineering, you need mega company to take you in, unless you want to just walk and wait for yourself to grow in the civil service. I started in the private sector, you know, before I turned into government.
I'm just wondering, you, mechanical engineer, it would have been nice to park my car and have you fix it for me.
Did you? Oh my God. I worked first at Benway Links, Nigerian Limited, Benway Links,
wow,
where I was dropping both the light vehicle engines and the heavy duty engines. But from the time I was studying in the university, I started with Benway Links. So I know as simple as the nuts and how to bring down the engine and how to go under the engine and drain the oil and those things, you know. And then I worked in technical.
You changing tire won't be a problem.
No, it's not a problem. It's just patient. Oh my God! But you have your jack.
Sometimes they get stolen.
No, a lot of when you design to be a woman, you know, you just have to be portable and fine. For some of us are designed to walk along with the men. So from childhood, we try to be a little bit strong enough to do one or two things. By the grace of God, when I was in the university, I had already married. I actually married. I took JAMB in my father's house, and then the JAMB result came out in my husband's house. And so 100 level, I was with my first baby. So by the time I was 500 level, I had 4.
Oh.
So I was keeping the home front. I didn't want him to feel my wife is going to school, and because of that, I can't have my babies. So God gave me the grace to keep the home front and my academics, and I tell you, I came out with very good grades.
Beautiful.
You know, I have this basic principle of life. You walk as if all depends on work, and then pray as if all depends on prayer. When I'm praying to God, you can see, when I'm praying to God, I forget that I have any potential within me. I forget that somebody on earth is there to help me. I pray as if without God, I cannot move my leg. But when it's time to work, I work as if God is absent, you know. So when it's time for me to read, I sit up while in the university, I tell you, my roommates, even when I'm heavily pregnant, will say, please wake me by 3 a.m. Please wake me by 2 a.m. because I'm seated.
You're the one waking them up.
Yes.
But they weren't pregnant.
Yes, they weren't.
Interesting.
But all is the policy, the principle in life. I made it up that work as if all depends on work and pray as if all depends on prayer. So when I combined the two, in my final year, mechanical engineering, I had my fourth baby. And he's a young man. He's reading mechanical engineering too.
Oh, really?
Right now.
Interesting.
And when that particular year, if you check my results, they were only A's and B's. I did not even have a C for the final year because the pregnancy made me a little bit uncomfortable. I think God did that work. So I could not sleep. So because I could not sleep,
you invented the angle in your books.
Thank you.
All right. Now you say you pray like there's no tomorrow. You work like there's no yesterday or tomorrow. Now, when you play too, how do you play? How do you unwind?
Oh yeah, I like my family. I'm most delighted when I sit around the TV screen with my kids, my husband, with me, and we're watching a program that cut across the interests of everybody.
NTA is celebrating 40 years as a national body, one family, just like your family.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, when you were young, you watched NTA. What do you remember about NTA?
Whoa. The first thing we know the television is on is that exactly dun, 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 and then they say they're about to on now, they're about to on. We all wait for 4 p.m. Then they used to start 4 p.m. So when it's about 4 p.m., every child will like, the TV is about to on now, the TV is out. And then you on it and you wait and it's about 4 and it's about 4. And then you see this green, white, this rainbow colors just come up and then, they start. And then you watch and watch and watch. And then, so for some of us that also read, you'll be reading and watching. And then 12 midnight, and then they like after singing the national anthem, and then
what was your favorite program?
As a young child, I actually loved a lot of Tales by Moonlight. And then there was this We Are the Famous Five.
Famous Five, yes.
Famous Five,
You will like it because it's macho.
Yeah. We are the famous five, so they all those children always doing some funny things, doing some adventures, jumping up and down,
Yeah, you did.
I always look forward to yes.
All right, it's been wonderful having you.
Thank you so
But just before we go, I want to know, how did you manage campaign?
Okay.
Well, campaign is one thing that is filled with a whole lot of things. I don't want to start naming them, but I'm wondering, a woman doing campaign for gubernatorial seats, it was hard, I'm sure. How did you manage it?
It was quite rigorous. Sometimes we could be out till 2 a.m., even 3 a.m. Sometimes you don't even catch a sleep. You just know that, okay, the night have just passed by. It's morning. You just know it. It was quite rigorous. But all the same, with prayers, the areas of violence, as I mentioned earlier, wasn't that funny. There was a time they had to have a shootout, with my campaign. But thanks to the Nigerian police, they were there and they shielded us, and we were safe.
You will continue to be safe.
Thank you.
And do wonderful things.
Thank
you. And represent women.
Women.
Okay?
Well, I know that
so
I will pray seriously, and I'm working seriously, that Nigerian men will realize, hey, it's high time 2-3 women should man 2-3 states. And let's take a sample. Why must we always do the same thing? 36 states from 1960, you need a woman. 2-3 women, take a sample. Don't be afraid of taking a sample. When they don't do it well, You said 2023 women, you were so poor, we're not giving you again. Take back your thing. But then don't just keep being scared of them failing.
All right, don't worry. We'll get there.
Yeah.
They don't need to give it to us. We're going to take it because we control the population.
Yeah,
remember?
Thank you. I like that.
All right, thank you
that.
so much for coming. And it's been a wonderful chat with the first of a lot of firsts, like I like to describe her, the woman who's turned around a lot of stake areas in Benue State and still doing more, not just for Benue, but for Nigeria. It's the woman, and we just love you being with us, because if you are with a woman, then you get real fed. Stay on and see you again some other time.
Doctors or that are not married, and they're doing this incredible.
Well, there's a mirage of things. I think first of all we have to go back to
the writer. You are very well known for your teaching skills. Your students speak a whole lot about you.
Miss Nigeria competition.
I said, let's pick them up, let's take them back to Nigeria, and let's teach them a different kind of job.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There is no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Good morning once again. The news update on the hour. I am Stella Inamiti. The National Assembly Joint Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission has adopted 143.5 billion naira as supplementary budget for 2019 general election, as submitted by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The Joint Committee has sat and has deliberated a position to adopt the 143 billion as presented by Mr. President.
The presidency says it is aware of an audio recording purported to be the voice of Leah Shaibu, the lone Dapchi schoolgirl still in Boko Haram captivity. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, says in his Twitter handle that the Secret Service is analyzing the audio. Formal government reaction, he explains, will follow the outcome of the investigation. Malam Garba Shehu maintains that President Muhammadu Buhari will spare no effort to ensure that all the girls in Boko Haram captivity are freed. He emphasizes that in dealing with terrorists, nothing is too trivial. Ahead of the visit of the British Prime Minister, Theresa May, to Africa, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Andrew Peacock, announced the line of activities during her visit to Nigeria. He made this known while briefing the media at the High Commission's premises in Abuja.
To see how the United Kingdom continue the help that we've been giving, increase the help that we've been giving, not just to protect those people who are returning, but to look at ways in which we can encourage people to stay in Nigeria.
And that's the news update. See you at 1 for another news update. Thanks for your time.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Thanks for joining us on Inside. Henceforth, enforcement agencies are to ensure that articulated vehicles abide by safety standards globally, and this to ensure safety on our roads. What are the managers of haulage companies, like the big ones, National Union of Road Transport Workers, ABC, Road Transport Employees Association of Nigeria, National Association of Road Transport Owners, name them, doing to complement this policy? We have on set the president of the National Union of Road Transport Workers talk with us on what they are doing to complement this policy by the federal government. On interview segment, 30 years after the establishment of Night Hotel, there has not been an enabling act. We now have an enabling act to back up that institute. If you're planning to go into the hospitality industry, this segment is a segment you not want to stay steps away. The Director General of that institute, Mrs. Chika Balogun, will be here to educate us on what the implication of that act in Nigeria. And on media review,
we shall be talking about something which unifies us together. It knows no creed, race, or language. We're talking about sports. We'll have a veteran, someone very, very knowledgeable in sports reportage, who talk to us on how much the media has contributed to sport development in Nigeria.
Well, if you sum it all, hospitality, sports, transportation, everything sums up to tourism. So if we look at it, we can just encapsulate to say today we're discussing tourism generally. So tourism is life, sports is tourism, hospitality is tourism, transportation itself, you need tour guides, is tourism. So the package inside today promises to be very, very insightful. So don't stay steps away. Up next on the program is the discussion segment. Stay with us. The federal government has directed enforcement agencies to stop articulated vehicles that fail to comply with minimum safety standards from plying the nation's highways. This directive came through the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. This was at the end of the summit on haulage transportation held in Abuja, where all the executive and managers of haulage in the country participated. We're supposed to have 2 haulage managers in the country here, but only one came, and that is the national president of the National Union of Road Transport Workers Alhaji Najim Usman Yassin. Thanks for joining me on Inside.
Thank you very much.
He also doubles as the Deputy National President of the Nigerian Labour Congress.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me. Now, following this directive, how are organizations like yours, the National Union of Road Transport Workers, going to help or complement government's efforts towards achieving this?
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to commend the SGF that initiates the Holic Summit, which our union is part of the summit. And all the 18-point agenda that was adopted at that meeting, which is to be implemented by the federal government or the agencies that are attached to it. On our own part, we have already started sensitizing our members on how they should all abide by all these rules that was adopted at the end of the summit.
Okay. So when you say you have started talking to your members, in which direction? Because it has to do with safety generally.
Yeah.
And your union, beyond just maybe daily commuting of passengers on the nation's highways, you also handle haulage, big trucks, all that. How do you intend to intensify this? You're huge.
If you look at, we have our unions. We control, as I said earlier, with the transportation of passengers and goods, excluding tankers drivers. They have their own union, the PTD, and on our own part, we have organs, states, branches, and all of this, and which, since the outcome of that meeting, we have called a meeting and tell them to make sure that they pass this message to the members, that is the membership, the members at the grassroots, okay, so that they can comply. Because the unfortunate incident that happened last year, it doesn't pray such unfortunate incidents to occur again. So everybody have a duty, a role to play to ensure the safety on our highways.
Okay, you also handle big trucks,
yeah,
not tankers.
Yeah.
And one of the worry by those of you in this business has been the fact that most of your members don't have the capacity to maybe maintain vehicles that are roadworthy on the roads.
Yeah.
Some of the vehicles are supposed to be off the roads.
Yeah.
And given the new policy now, it becomes a challenge to your members.
Yeah.
And one of the advocacy was that the need for government maybe to come up with a fund to assist your members, they pay over time. Are you working towards this?
Yeah, we are working towards it because we too have been preaching that any vehicle that is not roadworthy should not be put on road, because it should not go and endanger the life of innocent passengers that was carried. So, and then with the summit, with the pledge we made that we need an intervention fund at the transportation cycle, which the SGF said, and look, that the federal government will look something and do something into that direction. So I think if we had that, it will assist and make sure that we have vehicles that are durable and roadworthy to put on the highways.
But have you put in place maybe a template or a system on ground so that the government says, okay, we are ready, come and apply for this money, who qualifies? Are you working on something like that?
We are on it. We are working on it.
Okay. Now, let's go beyond the National Union of Road Transport Workers and look inwards. Haulage managers in Nigeria, at the end of this summit, do you people have plans to meet, to harmonize, mostly towards this National Reserve Fund to assist in assisting mass transit managers to have up-to-date vehicles on the roads?
Yeah. You see, as I'm part of the summit, and the SGF even said that this meeting is going to be a continuous one, that will be bringing all the haulage managers in this country is together, and which I commend the SGF that this is the first time we have such kind of summit at the instance of the federal government. This is the first time. I told them since I became the president of this union, it's the first time we have a very crucial summit in that level that comprises everybody, not body, both at the petrol sector and everywhere was put in place. And I feel, as the SGF have promised that it's going to be a continuous one, I think it will assist us, because it will be a forum where we'll be reviewing the past from where we had it to the next time. What happens? Have we seen changes or whatever? I think if this thing would have been doing, as I said, at that summit, it could have been something that could help this country in check these haulage managers. And I think, as what you said, that forum will bring us together so that we can be able to discuss and address and assess this fund that we are taking off.
Okay, the last time we discussed on this program was ahead of the 2015 general elections, and you assured me then that you are working hand in sync with the Independent National Electoral Commission towards maybe engaging the National Union of Road Transport Workers to take charge of the distribution of electoral materials in the country. How far have you gone with that policy, that arrangement?
As far as we are concerned, we have an MOU.
Were you involved in the just concluded the governorship elections?
Well involved there.
Okay.
People there provided the buses for the vehicles, for the logistics there. We have a meeting, and the chairman of the INEC said, after this election, we'll be able to sit down with the union and look at the MOU and see the areas to review or whatever, so that we can make sure that we put the MOU in preparation of the next election in 2009.
Now, INEC has engaged the National Union of Road Transport Workers for some elections now, right?
Yeah.
Since then and now, would you say your members have really improved in their services?
They are improving their services based on the experience of the last election. We have improved, and that is why we are trying to look at the area that will improve more.
Okay. So will you say that after your review meetings with INEC ahead of 2019, the National Union of Road Transport Workers will really be up to its bidding in terms of helping to transport electoral materials across the country?
Yeah, we are ever ready, because that is our profession. As I said in that meeting, the National Union of Road Transport Workers control 80% of the movement of passengers and goods in this country. And we have a branch in all the 774 local government of this country. We have the state offices in the 36 state council, including Abuja. We have the 6 zonal offices in the 6 geopolitical zones. And we have our headquarters here in Abuja, in Sapele Street, so where we coordinate the affairs of the organization. So we have the capacity, we have the will at the grassroots, everywhere, at any instance, either by the local government, the native vehicles, or the state, or this thing. And these vehicles belongs to us. These vehicles belongs to us. Okay. So we have the capacity of doing this assignment, and I assured the INEC chairman and the gathering that we'll try and do our best to make sure, because we take it as a responsibility that it is called to serve the country.
Okay. There's this concern that if the major ones don't come together to put in place a safety standard, an operational model, it may affect operations. For instance, the National Union of Road Transport Workers, Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria, National Association of Road Transport Owners, and the private ones like ABC, all that. Do you have plans to meet to come up with one safety code that will help your operations? Because if government is giving the directive, this directive is to all of you collectively. And one will expect that you will not work at cross purposes, you work together. So are you working towards coming together to develop
that is the extent of that summit.
Okay.
That is the essence of that summit, and that summit is where it brings all of us together, and we have to work together to make sure that we achieve this. We achieve this. We have it.
What's your plan towards the Ember months for 2018?
Our plan is to make sure that we, as usual, we sensitize our members and make sure that, because that is the rush period, peak, where the movement from one place to the other. So, and which we are sensitizing our members so that they can abide by the rules or whatever agreed on about the safety on the highway. So we have been planning and we continue doing that.
Do you still have cases of unruly drivers in your midst?
You see, when you find
drivers who don't conform to the norms and ethics of good driving practice and code.
No matter in a society where you have to have some bad eggs. We cannot rule out those bad eggs, but what I know is that those that are compliant are more than those who are not compliant. And those who are not compliant, by the time we got them, we deal them according to the rules of the organization.
Okay, your clientele, talking about what the common word, your customers are huge in the country. They are both, for instance, at least you have attested to the fact that the National Union of Road Transport Workers, for some years now, has taken charge of, has the responsibility to convey electoral materials to various polling units and what have, meaning your union is involved in the electoral process, the electoral governance in Nigeria. What role can the public play to enhance your operations? For instance, I'm a passenger.
Yeah.
I join a vehicle managed by your union.
Yeah.
And I see that the driver is not doing well. The vehicle is not good, the systems are not good, his brake system is not working, the tires are worn out. How do I report this matter to the union? Is there a way to do this? Do you have a mechanism like that?
We have a mechanism like that because, as I told you, we have the branches in the 774 local government. And any vehicle that is going out of the parks, we're talking those who are taking people outside the parks. Any vehicle that is inside, that is boarding at the outlets in the various parks in the country, the leadership there, we have been directed on that they should not allow any vehicle that is not roadworthy to go out of that park. If your tire is not good, if your vehicle is bad or whatever, you shouldn't be allowed to go out of the park. They should use the next vehicle to board it. But that is where we are calling that any passengers, because those who go by the roadside are many, because a lot of them will not even come to the park. They prefer going to the roadside and pick and move. And those where you are having all these bad drivers and all those that are not complying with the sign. But those who goes out of the park, because before they go out of the parks, we have our leadership there in the various parks should make sure that they are roadworthy and all these things. And that is the area we are saying anybody that is trying to board a vehicle shouldn't go to the roadside. Let him go to the designated motor parks and board a vehicle where they will take his address, his destination, where he's going and where he's coming from. And if there is any loss, he can be able to come back to that place and report, and they have to trace where his luggage is or property and get back to him.
So do you get reports about this on a daily basis?
We get reports, our parks get reports on a daily basis.
Okay. Now, let me take you to this question now. What are you doing about the issue of drug abuse at motor parks managed by your union? Drunkenness and drug abuse. We have cases where we have drivers who cannot engage on a trip with either taking something to charge up or taking some other thing to charge up. What are you doing about it?
We have directed our branches and even the security agencies in that area that nobody within the vicinity of the motor park should sell alcohol or drugs or whatever. Because that is the area, by the time a driver comes to the parks and maybe he load and they are selling drugs there or drinks, he can run and say, let me just go and take a bottle before I engage on a trip, which is very delicate and very distant. We make sure that if you go down, as I'm talking to you, go to the parks, you will not find where drugs or drinks are selling in the motor parks. Okay. Likewise before.
Still in line with this policy, what are you doing about your members not committing illegal passengers? Illegal passenger, for instance, let me use myself as an example. I traffic in human beings, and you are a national road transport workers. I meet you, you know about it, and you go ahead to transport the people I want to traffic. What are you doing about it so that you know? Because NAPTIP is very, very much averse to this.
You see, we couldn't know, most especially the leadership in that various park. But what I believe is that if they know, they will hand over that such person to security agencies.
There's this big slogan you have, up national
progress.
Chop alone, die alone. What does it translate? So how does it translate?
Before we said, chop alone, go away. But now, chop alone, you should pay back before you go. Because what we mean is that you should, if you have this thing, you have your people, make sure that you carry everybody along, and then you give what is due to A or B.
Okay, your last word for Nigerians and the motoring public to ensure safety, like the federal government has said here that enforcement agencies to stop articulated vehicles that fail to comply with minimum safety standards from plying the nation's highway. Last word, what message do you have to reinforce this?
My message to the Nigerian and the road users is to comply with all these rules and these policies. That's what justly introduced or adopt at the end of the Holic Summit here in Abuja. We should all cooperate and enforce it and make sure that it works, and call on the security agencies as it was adopted. They should enforce the policy.
Thank you so much. Deputy National President, Nigeria Labour Congress, and the President, National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, Alhaji Najim Usman Nassin. It was nice talking with you on Insight.
Thank you very much.
Don't go away. Insight continues with the interview segment. Most times you hear operators within the tourism sector tell you tourism is live, and that if everything is put in place, it could as well be the major revenue earner for Nigeria. It is happening in so many other countries. Truly, tourism is life because everything around you revolves around tourism. Well, I stand to be corrected. On set today, because we have said on Insight, we want to always sustain issues concerning tourism. Today, we are having the National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism in Nigeria, NIHOTO. The General, Mrs. Chika Balogun, is my guest. Thanks for joining me on Insight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. If I remember vividly, the last time you were on Insight with me, I don't know whether you've come when I was not around, I was concerned about if there was an enabling act, and you said then that you were doing something about it. Yes. Where are we with that?
Thank you very much. Yes, when I last visited Insight, and I haven't been since the last time I was here, we were in the process of starting to, push for a bill establishing the National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism. And I can say to the glory of God that this 8th Assembly has passed the bill establishing the National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism. Both houses have passed it. We're now waiting for it to get to our president, and I am very sure that he will very graciously assent to this bill. It's been 30 years in the making. NIHOTO came into existence as a tripartite agreement between the ILO, UNDP, and the federal government of Nigeria in 1987. Actually, Nigeria won the rights to host a school to train West Africa in hospitality and tourism. That's how big the original plan was. So 30 years down the line, we didn't have a legal framework to back the work and the mandate that had been given to NIHOTO. But the 8th Assembly, has finally done it. I mean, all other assemblies in the last maybe 12 years tried. For whatever reasons, we didn't complete it. But to the glory of God, the 8th Assembly has passed the bill establishing a National Institute for Tourism and Hospitality, and also allowed us now to certify and register personnel in the industry. That is something that would revolutionize the whole training certification landscape in Nigeria. It's all about personnel in the industry. It's all about the service that we deliver, and services are delivered by human beings. Tourism is hugely about human beings and the kind of service that we deliver. Without training, it's impossible to deliver good service before we even begin to talk about excellent service.
Okay. Beyond certification and maybe to harmonize operations, what other
need to be trained and certified to be a housekeeper? So we know that you know what you're doing. If you're a front office person, you're trained and certified, so we know that you know what you're doing. NIHOTOR is going to regulate personnel and the quality of services that they deliver. We're not after how beautiful your house is, what grade, or what rank the hotel is. Those things don't matter to us. What we're interested in is the quality of service. And that quality of service will certainly make sure that the houses themselves are beautiful and kept in order, because people will keep coming back. Investors will come once they know that they can get good quality staffing from Nigeria. A lot of people, international investors, when they call me, the first thing they say is, so how many people do we have that are certified at international levels that we're sure we can get good capacity from? And, I haven't been able to answer very, very confidently in those terms, because the industry itself has not been up and doing in terms of training and retraining of their staff, because there's also continuous professional development. So it's not just about I've trained, I have a PhD today and then I can go to bed. No, the industry is very fluid. People demand different things at different times. So you must keep up with your training, regardless of how low or how high you start in the industry.
Does the mandate of this act extend to maybe trying to stipulate what becomes of in terms of remuneration for this category of persons?
No, we're not going to tell private sector, because it's largely a private sector driven industry. We're not going to tell private sector that you must pay X amount of money to people at certain categories. No, but it will work itself out without even anybody having to intervene. Because when I'm trained and qualified to deliver services, you're not going to pay me peanuts. The reason you're paying me peanuts is because I really don't have the capacity to deliver. So why pay me more than I'm worth? But if I'm worth X amount of naira, and I'm not the only one in the industry, we're probably 1,000 of us who are front desk officers who are properly qualified and certified to do this job. The 1,000 of us, if we say we're not working because we've not been paid properly, then 1,000 hotels will shut down, or at least 500 hotels will have to shut down. So they have the power themselves as individuals, when they have the right certification, the right training, and can deliver excellence on their jobs. There's no person, no investor who would not pay you top dollar if you can deliver excellence on your job. The excellence you deliver translates to excellent profits for him or her. So it's a win-win situation for all, but it's not for us at government to set bars in terms of how much people should be paid. The industry will sort that out themselves. But we do know sincerely that even the owners and investors will not mind paying top dollar if they're sure that the personnel in question deserves that amount of money.
Okay, you travel out, I travel out. And several other Nigerians travel out. And at the commonest point, you sit down, you're served and you're satisfied. And will I be right or incorrect to say that this enabling act, I'm so emphatic about it because you have now been given the teeth to bite.
Yes.
You are no more that toothless bulldog that existed for 30 years. Now, gardens, bars, are they involved in this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The value chain of tourism is, like you said, almost life itself. It cuts across almost every sectors in Nigeria. Hospitality being a critical and like the center, the nucleus of what happens within the tourism family. So whether you're a bar, whether you're a booker, whether you're a restaurant, you are going to have to comply. You must make sure that your staff is certified. We're not going to be unfriendly about it. This administration is people friendly. So we're not going to say because the president has assented today, then tomorrow, if you don't have certified all your personnel, shut down, immediately. No, there will be a time frame given to everyone to make sure that their staff get certified, and the staff who doesn't want to, you let that staff go and get one, because now you can't even employ a fresh one who is not certified. The onus is on you now to make sure that those already working get their certification within the period of time that we're going to allow. But that's going to be the face of government. Government is not going to wield the big hammer until that time lapses.
Now the act is in place, and the question is...
Correct. You can train anywhere, in any good training school in Nigeria, and get your certification.
You have them. You have the locations already.
Oh yes, we have Wavecrest in Lagos, for instance. Naihoto has 9 campuses. Let me speak for Naihoto. Other schools should come to Insight and speak for themselves. But for Naihoto, we have 9 campuses. We have Lagos, we have Benin, we have Enugu, we have Oshogbo, we have Makurdi, which is coming live in September. We have Abuja here, which is the headquarters and a little of training. We have Kaduna, we have Kanu, and we have Bauchi. 9 locations in cutting across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. We're also working closely with more state governments who want to bring training closer to their people. Federal government is not going to be able to fund all of the setting up of training